So here we are. We want to introduce you to the area, and we want to know what you have to say about metaphysical hypnosis. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, many people have all kinds of emotional responses with the term hypnosis being used, and for good reason. It's gotten a bad name. But as the so-called New Age has progressed, more understanding has come about of what hypnosis is. So the type of hypnosis I do is a little bit different than most practitioners. Generally, hypnosis is used to help people break habits like smoking, helping people to lose weight, sleep better, and so forth. Hypnosis can be extremely effective with many people in that regard. However, I consider myself a metaphysical hypnotist. The emphasis on that aspect, meaning that I deal with the esoteric applications of trance. And what I mean by that is I specialize in areas like past life regressions, future life progressions, exploration of consciousness in between lives, higher self contacts, spirit guide connections, spirit releasement approaches, UFO abduction scenarios. And I also work with cetacean consciousness, which includes the family of dolphins, whales, and porpoises. And I work with a particular dolphin who serves as an inner teacher, inner guide. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in this conversation.
That's Percy.
That's Percy, yeah. He's got a lot to do with the work that I'm involved in.
Well, why would a person want to have a session with you? What would bring them to?
Basically, the people who are asking for experiences with me are people who want to go a little bit further than conventional psychological approaches will provide. Hypnosis is considered depth psychology. It deals with the unconscious. The way I work with it, it's not that a person goes unconscious when they have the process. They access the unconscious, and that's a big difference. So they are alert and aware during the experience, unless they remember it all after it's over. So the word hypnos comes from the Greek word sleep. So people think it's a sleep of the consciousness. It is not. Actually, you're more alert and aware in the trance than you are normally. You're sensitive to the voice that's speaking to you. But very importantly, you've tuned out external stimuli and you tuned into inner awareness. And what we do together is to use the technique to enable a person to perceive impressions from within. That can be enlightening, that can be insightful, informative, maybe even guidance and advice can come through. That awareness is always available, but we're concerned with the mundane aspects of living, where to eat, where to go, and who to see, and so forth. And that's part of being alive. In the trance process, you literally have an opportunity to switch off the logical linear left, which questions, analyzes, and judges, and compares, so that you can work with the right side of the brain for most people. Some people are switched, but for most people, it's the right side of the brain, which deals with the intuitive aspect, the emotional aspect, deals with patterns, deals with awareness that is normally inaccessible, except for people who are sensitive to impressions coming from a different realm. I don't like to use the term level, because that presupposes something above or below. The term dimension or realm seems to fit. It's a question of vibration. That's what we're talking about. At a vibratory level. Everything is vibration. A great leader in the Eastern tradition once said that it doesn't make a particle difference if you consider all of energy as matter in its most rarefied form, or all of matter as energy in its most solidified form. Everything is energy. But behind the energy is consciousness. And that involves everything.
Okay. The unconscious. What's the energy? How do we, how do we bring it up? How do we bring it out from the unconscious?
Well, first of all, let me explain. When I say the unconscious, I'm not talking about the conventional Freudian concept of something related to desires and sexual secrets and this sort of thing. I'm talking about something that's very spiritual. And that's why I think in terms of concepts that are perhaps more connected to a spiritual understanding of what the unconscious is. So the unconscious that I'm talking about here, where there's an awareness beyond what is normally accessible to people, is a higher consciousness, or an inner consciousness, or a spiritual consciousness, a God consciousness, a soul consciousness, a spirit guide, an angel within, something that knows more, a hidden observer. I like the term inner self-consciousness, because that's what it is. It's something that's always there. It's always accessible through various approaches that we take, which shift us out of our normal everyday awareness.
So is it the disconnection that we have, or the unawareness that we have of the unconscious that influences how we decide things?
Well, I think we're very focused in the connectedness that we have with our everyday experience, so that we're absorbed by the so-called distractions of this physical reality. We think this is the only reality. We think this is all there is. So we're so focused here, so it's not a disconnect from the unconscious as it is an over-connection to everything that we're dealing with in our lives. So that makes the inner awareness far in the background, unless we open up to that through various techniques like hypnosis, like meditation. You can call it the ancient science of going within. All trances are basically the same thing. You tune out external awareness and you tune into what's inside. And that's how connections are made. The guided approach I use is nothing extraordinary. It's simply talking to someone so that they can literally disconnect from everything out here except for the sound of my voice. And then when they do that, they tune into what's inside. And what's inside is that source of awareness and insight and understanding that I mentioned. It's different for everybody, and everybody responds differently to the experience. But it's basically the same thing. Tuning out external stimuli, tuning into inner awareness, with a voice being the guide. And that voice will journey along with the individual in the process so that he or she can feel safe in leaving this everyday familiarity and going very far and very deep. Basically the way it works, Lynn, the deeper inside the experience the person goes, the more benefit they'll have from the experience. The more pleasant it'll be, the more relaxed they are, just by being in the relaxed state. All kinds of stress are released from the body. So if a person doesn't, quote unquote, do any work in the process, but allows that intense experience of relaxation to occur, relaxation of the body, that's the sleep in hypnosis, the sleep of the body. That is great benefit right there. We're a stress-filled society. And when we go through a process of relieving that, or releasing it, great benefit occurs.
And I had never, I think, I mean, the trance state that I was in when we had our session, I've never felt that state of meditation before. I really appreciated knowing what it feels like and what you said, what you were guiding, what was I can go back to.
Yeah, and ideally, once you tap into that depth of awareness in the work that we do, then on your own, your processes can be deeper and more fulfilling because you connected to the vibration. It's like having an analog radio and you're not quite sure where the station is, so you're fiddling with the dial until it comes in very clearly. Now once you've been to that station, the next time you turn on the radio, you can go back to that station again. You know where it is on the dial. It's getting into the digital age. You tune into the frequency, the vibration, the energy of it. So if I'm working with somebody who's an experienced meditator, it's very easy. I'll often say, okay, you do your thing, you put yourself in the process. When you are ready for me to start speaking to you and for us to work together, let me know. Because it's not just the type of process where I quote-unquote put a person in trance and then magic happens. No, we work together so that the individual is using his or her capabilities going into the process, whether they're an experienced meditator or not. Because unbeknownst to many people, the power of hypnosis is with the subject himself or herself. It's not what the operator is saying. I'm not denying that there's energy in the voice. There's energy in everything. And a nice voice will help a person go a little bit deeper and further and so on. But what the operator is doing is working with the imagination of the individual. That's the power of the process. That's the most important thing I could possibly say about hypnosis. Many New Age thinking involves the power of suggesting to the unconscious what you want to create. The law of attraction, the law of manifestation, visualization. All that is really meaningful and powerful. We're doing it all the time. We're always communicating to the unconscious, whether we know it or not. Every thought we have is a message to the unconscious to attempt to create that thought into reality. That inner awareness doesn't judge, oh, this is a good thought. I'm going to work on that one. That's a bad one. I won't do that. No. This is a justified thought. But no. Any thought you have. So if you're in negative thinking states or a process like that where you're worrying about something, the unconscious is taking that as a message to create that into your own reality. That's why negative thinking is so destructive. And that's why positive thinking is so good. When you imagine something positive coming about, you tend to create that into your reality. But it's not just a one-way street. You're not just communicating to the unconscious by suggesting things to it. The unconscious communicates to you also with the imagination. And this is tricky. In our society, we're taught imagination is child's play. But imagination is the key to working with the inner reality. The imagination is the language of the inner reality. The imagination is the vehicle that the inner reality uses to communicate with what one understands as the conscious mind, which is very operable in the trance state. All a person has to do then is accept those impressions. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I hope you don't mind this elaboration here. If this were a dream right now, maybe it is, and you're looking at me, in this dream, there could be somebody behind you. Even though you're looking here, and in the dream, you can know that somebody is there, and you can know who it is. Now, it's not logical that you would know that. But in the dream, you accept that knowingness. Thus, the dream continues. If in the dream, you were to say, hey, I can't know that somebody's behind me. How can I know who it is? You're awakening that logical linear left, which questions and analyzes the critical faculty. Well, then you would either go asleep where the dream, the deeper sleep where the dream is inaccessible, or the dream itself would stop. Or you would awaken. You would sabotage the dream by doing a questioning process of testing the reliability or the validity of the impression of knowing that somebody's behind you and who it is. The dream works because you accept the absurdity of that knowingness. When I'm doing a trance process with an individual, the greatest challenge I have is to encourage a person to accept all the impressions that they're getting, even if it seems like fantasy, that they're making it up. Because that's the way it works. The imagination communicates sometimes very subtly. So you think, oh, this is not relevant, I'm just fantasizing and whatnot. So you tend to discount them. And my job is to encourage a person to accept everything. What they're thinking, feeling, sensing, imagining, even if they seem they're making it up. Because what they think they're making up, they're perceiving from a deeper dimension of awareness. So I encourage people in the trance process not to make a distinction between what they may understand as creative imagination, what they think they're making up and is irrelevant, and perceptive imagination, what they think they are validly perceiving from some deeper realm. The purpose of the trance, any impressions that they are getting while they're in that state, they are essentially the same. It's imagination that is relevant to what they need to know. All they need to do is have a posture, what I call the Tao, T-A-O, a posture of trust, acceptance, and openness to whatever impressions there are. If a person has that psychological posture in the process, they will maximize their benefit of the experience. If not, they will warp the experience by questioning and analyzing, or they'll sabotage